The last time I talked to her was May 24th, 2019. And she asked me if I would help contribute to her campaign, and I told her she wasn't ready for prime time. She hung up on me. That was the last time I talked to her. She's tone deaf.
A lot of Democrats, they take offense at things like that. I mean, you can't say Kamala Harris is low IQ and EQ.
I just did.
Really interesting interview for you guys. Stephen Cloobeck joins me. He's running for governor in California. He's also the author of Facing Hard Truths: How Americans Can Get Real, Pull Together, and Turn Our Country Around. And here it is, in fact, boom. And he's a philanthropist, he's been involved in politics, and he's a businessman, and a Democrat, lifelong Democrat. Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem, thanks for coming in. So you ran very successful businesses, why get into politics?
Well, it's funny, people ask me that question, but I've been around politics for 39 years. I was an activist as a young man, and I was tasked to do local work in Las Vegas on the Strip. I was the chairman of the Strip Beautification Project, a public-private partnership. And I was tasked also to create the brand of the United States, Brand USA, Tourism and Travel Department of the United States, and I work for the Oval Office. So I've been involved creating laws in many states and countries. I've been a regulator. I ran the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and I've been a judge too. So I've done a little bit of around the hoop on all sides and fixed the most broken of companies.
Yeah, so all right, let's tackle both business and politics.
Yeah.
And Stephen's a colorful character. He's got fun websites and URLs, and his website, in fact, is CaliforniaGetAClue.com, as in CLOO.com. Okay, we've got a song from him about getting a clue too, but hold, we'll get to that. Okay, so first, how'd you build up your businesses?
Well, school of hard knocks. Just learning in the street. I never went to business school. I think we've discussed this with our friendship. Mike Milken actually taught me business. I got my business degree from Mike Milken, and I got my political policy degree from the great late Senator Harry Reid and Bill Clinton. So it's learning in the street. I mean, I was trained to be a surgeon, a doctor. I have a degree in neurobiopsychology, and I thought I was going to be a heart surgeon and pivoted. So I learned pivoting and just learning in the street. There is a path if you have a purpose and if you enjoy what you do.
How do you find a company that you think will be successful? Like, what are the keys to building a company that winds up doing as well as your companies did?
Well, I think it all comes down to seeing where there's distress and why companies are in distress. It's usually being run by leaders that don't have the passion to lead it, by not taking a hard look at why a company has failed. It's usually simply poor operating in the form of leadership in the team and giving the customer what they want. Listen to your customer. And if you listen to that customer, they will tell you the pathway to success. Just follow it.
Well, the politicians could use that if they listen to their voters. That would be great.
Well, that in itself is one of the reasons I'm running, because I did not intend to do this. This was not on my bucket list. I interviewed every single candidate, and I came back and I said, this is the best we got. And I saw there was a lack of understanding of the customer. So I polled with Frank Luntz, the customer of California, and they told me what they were looking for, and I made that into deliverables for the customer, giving them equal or greater value.
Yeah, so when you talk about Frank Luntz and Michael Milken and Harry Reid, people wonder what side of the Democratic Party you're on, right? Because the Democratic Party is split, and you're also a Democratic donor, and that's
almost 4 decades.
And that's why you talked to all those candidates before, because you were thinking of potentially supporting one of them, right? So to help us understand, there's progressives, there's and these labels are always mishmash, and people mean different things by them. But there's more moderate or conservative or business-oriented Democrats, etc. Where are you on the spectrum?
It's real simple. I'm in the hard center. People confuse me whether I'm a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a lifelong Democrat, but I've not changed. The party changed, and that social experiment's failed. And it's funny, people say, you seem to the center, to the right. And I'm like, well, I grew up on the end of a cul-de-sac, and when you get to that end, and it's the far left end, when you turn around, everything looks right. And that's actually the right reason I'm running and the right decisions for where we're going in California, because everything is going to look right, because we went so far left. When you turn around, it's the way it is.
So tell me where you think it went too far left.
Well, look, we forgot about respect of the California customer. We forgot about being responsible to the customer and showing results. And we forgot about, as Democrats, how to execute, how to be accountable. You have to know your numbers. For us not to know where the money has gone, you'd fail in business in a week. And not to enforce the laws of our land. And we got too much into putting Band-Aids on situations. Those in leadership that we've allowed to be in leadership have never signed the front of a check. And they don't understand how difficult it is to actually do business in California because they've never done business. And they think also they're smarter than us. And they also think it's their money, but it's our money.
So Stephen, when you get into too far left, there's a lot of different ways that people can interpret that. So there's identity politics, for example, and people think that's too far left. Then there's economic populism, and some people think that's too far left. I like economic populism. Okay, so there's different gradations, right? But one thing that you point out that I think maybe a lot of people agree with, and I don't know, and I'm not sure that it depends where they are on the political spectrum, is the accountability. Where's the money, right? So like if we spent $24 billion on homelessness, where is it?
Where are the receipts? And for these leaders not to know and say we need to have an audit, you and I both know, being in business, if we need to do an audit, there's serious problems. We know where the dollars are, maybe not down to the 0.01 penny, but we're damn ass close. And we know where the receipts are because we authorized the expenditures. They have had such bravado, the leaders that we've elected to this point, to not even pay attention. And they play the blame game, and when you play the blame game, there's deeper problems. You as a leader must stand and take those hard bullets coming into you and make sure your team gets the trophy. But they want the trophies. You can't get a trophy unless you show results to the people, unless our streets are clean, and it's really simple. If we got potholes and our streets are ripping apart, we got problems.
Yeah.
If the 405 freeway, or as they say up north, well actually the 405 doesn't go up north, it's the 5. If the highways are clean up north and they're not clean in the south, and it's all under Caltrans, the state leadership, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Leadership.
So there's two different things about politicians, right? One is they set policy, but then the other is that they have to actually manage the government. So whether it's the mayor of LA, for example, or the position you're going for, governor of California. So we do a lot of analysis of their policy positions. So here in California, we generally vote Democrat, obviously, right? And because we do care about the homeless and we do want them to be taken care of in a humane way. So, but the second half we barely ever talk about, which is how good are you at executing those policies, right? And actually getting the job done and actually helping homeless people and the community, right? And you could do both at the same time, actually fighting crime, but not abusing black and brown people, etc. So how are you going to get people to focus on that management end that you think the Democrats in California are not doing well?
Well, look, I bring unbridled authenticity with warmth and compassion because I've operated that way my entire career. I've tried to sit in a room of ultra MAGA Republicans. I don't fit in. I actually have so many skill sets a person of my experience would even think of running for office because they're afraid of the media, which I'm not, because I've been on Undercover Boss 4 times and always done a lot of television. I'm selfless, I serve. I'd rather ask you what you'd like for dinner, cook it for you, serve it to you, sit down and have a great conversation and clean your plate. I'm built to serve. Where if you look at some of the ultra Republican MAGA folks, they're built to critique and want to be served. So we're a party, a Democratic Party of service-minded individuals. What we've forgotten about is the balance sheet and income statement, performance and results. And I plan on creating the California Department of Performance and Results, also as known as CPR, which we need.
Yeah, see, that's clever, and we actually do need it. So, speaking of that, what makes you a Democrat? You're proud to be a lifelong Democrat. Why? What is it about the Democratic Party that resonated with you and has you fighting for it your whole life? Especially given that you're a little bit more on the conservative side of the Democratic Party.
Service and inclusiveness, protection, Papa Bear, fighter, which hardly exists in the Democratic Party, but it's a spillover from Harry Reid. And it's really simple. I would rather serve than be served. And that's really the distinguishable characteristic. And being inclusive, it's living in the world of integrity. We don't lie. And these are values that I have, and I find those on the ultra Republican. Even with Donald Trump, the guy has no values. I've got values. The guy's got no integrity. I got integrity. He doesn't pay his contractors. I pay my contractors. I create value. He destroys value. So it's distinguishable, and I just don't fit into that side. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm loyal and I'm proud. But I even have to fight with those in my party because guess what? I've aspired to my dreams and fulfilled them, and I want everyone to have those dreams too. And I'm not afraid of leaning into that. I'm not afraid of saying I've been successful and I'm proud of it.
Yeah. So, but Stephen, then some would say, okay, look, you're also a donor and you've given a good amount. You do philanthropy too.
A lot of philanthropy.
Right. But you also donate to Democratic politicians. And oftentimes they did try to serve the donor class and it didn't work out. So some say, including me, by the way, that donors have too much influence in the Democratic Party. Well, how do you respond to that?
Well, look, there have been times over the last 39 years where I said, you know what, enough, I'm out. And I keep getting brought back in to either fix the problems of the politicians that could not be fixed and serving. And we have to all show up. We can't say they caused it, we all caused it, okay? We have to accept responsibility for where we are today, and if we don't like it, collectively fix it together. We have to do this. And I keep getting back to no finger pointing, we. And I think it's now my responsibility to actively show up and really, really help now because I've got the free time. I was fortunate enough to have sold my company and I've done other businesses and I'm damn good at this and I'm having fun. And I love helping people.
Yeah, so I want to get some of the other candidates in a sec, but yeah, you are having fun, which leads us back to the song.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to get, California get a clue.com. You've got a bunch of other URLs, and you're leaning into the clue. So let's listen to this for a second.
Go ahead.
California, get a clue. Save the Cloobeck is the guide for you. Stand in chair, this is your cue. Saving Cloobeck will pull us through. Marching forward, hearts on fire. California left us higher.
Okay, so now in the old days, people would have said, "Oh no, this is not dignified, Stephen. You might be really successful in business, but you can't lean into these kind of joking things and the songs." And you were a reality show star in a sense, because Undercover Boss, and so was Trump, and so we can't have this. What do you say to that?
I'm me. I mean, I am who I am. This song was written for me as a gift. Jeff Ross, the Roastmaster General, wrote this song.
Jeff Ross wrote that song?
Jeff Ross, and he gave it to me as a gift. It's under my name. And then we had it recorded by professional studio musicians. And it's copywritten, I own it. It's on Spotify, iHeart, and Apple. And it's kind of Blink 182 California vibey. It's got Riz, California Riz. And look, it is who we are. Jeff Ross and I had a real deep conversation over the holidays. He was sick last year, and we were talking seriously. And he goes, Klooby, that's my nickname. He goes, Klooby, we got to bring back humor. Got to bring back humor. He says, maybe you could do that in politics too. And I said, well, it's my dream to bring back non-victrolic language where we can sit and talk and agree to disagree, but we can joke around and it's okay. Nobody takes it personally. You become self-deprecating and you want to laugh at me. It's fine. I'm not a perfect man. You're not a perfect man. Nobody's perfect. And it's okay. But we want everyone to do well. And yeah, the song is kitschy, it's cute, and who cares?
So Jeff Ross, is he going to be in your governor's office?
He's going to be the Secretary of Humor for California.
Or how about Department of Humor?
The Department of Humor. The Department of Humor. We can have the CPR department. We can have the Department of Humor, DOH. Jeff could certainly run that. He actually said something at the Democratic State Party convention. He was introducing me to a big group of folks, and he came to entertain a little bit and make fun of us. But he said, "Look, I'll send you the clip." He goes, Cloobeck was in the resort business for his career and made his livelihood, and now California is Cloobeck's last resort.
Oh, he's here all week.
I'm telling you, it's cute. That's Jeff Ross.
Okay, so that's fun. I appreciate and it's not just for fun's sake. Look, my opinion on it is, if you do things that are catchy, you get people's attention and then get them to focus on your policies, right?
100%. And look, in all seriousness, we have a policy to fix the insurance crisis. It's on our website already, tip to tail, and it was crafted for me talking to all the insurance companies. Why'd you leave? And then I talked to the Insurance Association and I studied Proposition 103 to see if we could live within it. And the corrections were very similar to what I did at Diamond Resorts, from Sotera to Diamond Resorts, a worldwide company. It's treating California as a country and having a financial fix with a legislative fix and living within the regulation, so the regulatory fix too. And no other politician would think this out because they haven't done it. So if I look at the competitive landscape, I have a fix for the entertainment industry already and the education industry. And these are all exports of our state for tourism and travel. How do we grow our top line and use the resources of this great country, California, the fourth largest GDP in the world, effectively? How do we become on offense, not defense? How do we work with the federal government? Because we're a net donor of dollars, $94 billion approximately, to the federal government, and become the bully pulpit the way it was when I grew up here.
Yeah, so now you're on the Democratic side. Kamala Harris is thinking of entering the race.
Yes.
There's a lot of reports about that. Other candidates in the race have said, if Kamala Harris gets in, we'll leave. We'll just give her the field. Will you leave if Kamala Harris gets in?
No, I know Miss Harris and she knows me. Last time I talked to her was May 24th, 2019. And she asked me if I would help contribute to her campaign, and I told her she wasn't ready for prime time. She hung up on me. That was the last time I talked to her. She's tone deaf. She lost that last election. She doesn't lack. She lacks the ability to really understand the customer of the United States, and she hasn't seen the customer of California in a long time. She got no IQ or EQ. Tone deaf. So it's really simple. I look forward to that debate with her. And for appetizers, I'll bring her either nacho or regular Doritos. Which do you choose from? And her entree, I already know what to prepare.
What's that?
It's a big glass bowl of words, letters interlocked in words with 2 wooden spoons. And now here's your entree.
So a word salad.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I have no idea what the hell she talks about.
Okay, so now a lot of Democrats, they take offense at things like that. I mean, you can't say Kamala Harris is low IQ and EQ.
I just did.
Well, there you go. All right, that's your answer. So how about the other candidates in the race? Do you think they're formidable or you got them?
Look, they don't have the 360 4-pronged experience that I do, fixing the most broken of business, worldwide experience, signing the front of a check, understanding how to create laws, being a regulator and an adjudicator, but more importantly, understanding the values of the California customer.
So, and who do you view as the California customer? So let's say you get in office, you're the governor. What are you going to do first? Are you going to assess? Or you got a plan? What are you going to do first?
Well, it's simple. I mean, I've got one concept is I'd like to put a bounty on the EDD fraud that we've had that's still uncollected, close to $30 billion, and give anybody and everybody, private investigators and citizens, 10% of every dollar we collect back. Turn the folks in. The bounty. EDD fraud, turn it in. And then next.
Hold on, what's EDD fraud for people?
That's employment development, the workers' comp fraud that occurred during COVID. All the money.
The companies that took the money in when they shouldn't have taken it.
That's right. So
you catch the ones that did it fraudulently, and you're saying return 10% of that to the California citizens?
Yeah, so really simple. If we collect $20 billion, I'll give $2 billion away.
And the other goes into the budget.
Of course.
Yeah.
For us.
Okay, not bad. What's the second one?
The second one is this. Submit to me what impedes you from doing good business in California. Submit to me what impedes you from doing good business.
So you ask the businesses that. So you're catching the fraudulent businesses.
That's right.
But for the real businesses, you're asking them what's stopping you from doing business.
What regulations, what laws are impeding you from doing good business in California?
But Stephen, what if the bankers say, well, I mean, look, we got this regulation that won't let me charge extra when there's an overdraft.
Well, time out. We'll just stop right there. Those are federal regulations, not state.
Well, that's true.
Okay,
that's
so
true.
come on.
Okay, see, he knows his material. Okay, but if you caught some where they say, well, I want to make more money, but there is a real regulation in there for a reason.
And then what you do to our customers of California, explain to them, we do have regulations to keep bad actors out, and that's it. And this happens to be one of those regulations. Because we always want to keep bad actors out. Regulations are good. I was in highly regulated businesses, real estate, insurance, banking, and gambling. So I've been in highly regulated business. I liked regulation as long as it was fair regulation.
Okay, that's interesting. So, and is California overregulated from time to time? Oh yeah.
Well, there's over 380,000 regulations in this great state country. It's too much, please.
Yeah, and so it's always a balancing act of where to draw. But here, I'll try an example real quick. Palisades. So people want to rebuild right away, and also other parts of LA that burned down too, obviously. And so, but at the same time, you got to be careful in how you rebuild. There's an easy example is when you're building an office building in California, you have to have earthquake standards.
Seismic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a builder.
Yeah, so how do you balance that out? If you were
look, you know, we would be silly to allow somebody to build what was built in the 1920s out of stick with eaves, without the proper sprinklers. We need to build reinforced housing that can withstand. And some areas probably there shouldn't be homes built, right? So things change. We need to pivot. No mandates, but we need to pivot smartly because there's certain areas where maybe there's no more, insurers won't cover that area. So supply and demand and market conditions are gonna govern what should be the future of a certain area. And we need to follow those things, not buck those trends, right?
Okay, so some balance on regulation, but in the beginning you're looking for overregulation that has prevented businesses from coming to California more.
100%. We need to open California back up for business so it's affordable, livable, and workable.
So how do you, I mean, if there's one problem in California that people will focus on the most is housing.
Yeah,
right.
Affordability.
Just out of control on affordability. So how do you tackle that?
Well, you've got, some impediments, CEQA, for example, which is an overregulation of any type of building in this state. You also have wildlife, okay, which people don't talk about, the Species Act in California. You also have the Coastal Commission. And I think they have been allowed to be weaponized, okay, to impede businesses from growing and expanding. And it causes market conditions such that you have unknown risk factors and people end up spending a lot more than they should compared to other states because we've overregulated ourselves. So if our great governor, Gavin Newsom, was able to pause CEQA, Coastal Commission, and wildlife for the Palisades and the Eaton fire, good, then I'm gonna absolutely mandate an affordability emergency in the entire state of California and pause all these. He just
No.
did it for LA. I'll do it for the entire state until new legislation is written that can accommodate future sustainable growth.
So, well, talk to me about that, because sometimes they lift regulations, especially in LA, and they say, oh, we're gonna get more housing. And then we do get more housing, super expensive housing built in the middle of West LA that people can't afford anyway. So, okay, how do we, like if we just leave it in the hands of the real estate companies, they're gonna wanna maximize profit, they're gonna build the most expensive housing, et cetera. So how do we get past that problem?
Well, we're gonna have to create a department within California, not a department that costs us money, that actually allows us to grow profitably, okay? And that's really in performance and results. It's really on the expense line. I mean, it's not even on the top line, it's on performance and results, because we need to improve the number of homes built in California that are affordable, okay? So if we go ahead and pause the issue that doesn't allow us to build quickly and profitably because there's risk associated with it, and you can weaponize CEQA and the Wildlife Act. Any union or not in my backyard, the NIMBY folks can kind of protest. In the old days, I used to build in the 80s in 120 days, pull a permit. 120 days. And then pull my demolition permit, and then pull my structural permit, and then pull my electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and all of a sudden we're finished. You can't do that today because they want everything front loaded with assessment fees and costs and every I dotted and T crossed. And that creates extraordinary expense and unknown time of risk.
Interesting. All right, two more policy questions. One is about crime. So California has a rich history of being accused of being too soft on crime and too tough on crime, with 3 strikes and you're out. So where do you land on that as things stand now?
It's really simple. I've got a problem with the budget right now in California, the balance sheet and income statement, when we reduce the prison population by 38% and the budget goes up $3 billion. Can you figure out that math?
Yeah, there's a lot of math to figure out in California.
Okay, well, that's pretty obvious. We got to figure that out. And then if we are letting these folks out of the state penitentiaries and we just pushing them down to the cities and counties, well, it has to be a holistic approach to it. And good leaders would understand 50,000 feet and into the weeds. And I think the leaders that we've elected don't understand all that because they're not operators.
So would they?
And then let's finish. So, and then when you're talking about crime, look, we went from Prop 47 to 36, and our leadership didn't listen to the customer because the customer said they wanted 36 to the point of 70%, and they fought it tooth and nail. But in my book, 36 doesn't go far enough.
Oh, that's interesting. So just real quick for the audience, if you don't know, especially if you're not from California, 47 turned some felonies into misdemeanors, and so reduced the sentencing on some of those crimes, but it was kind of hidden. They didn't actually put it in the ballot measure. So I voted on that and I had no idea because it was not in the bill at all, in the description to the voters at all. And so then the California voters rebelled and they did Prop 36 that said, no, put them back into felonies. There's too much crime, right?
Well, and they also still allowed it to be okay to steal up to $950.
And that's the part you would get tougher on?
Oh, not in my book. What would happen if we were kids and we stole a piece of candy? Would you be more terrified of the police officer or your father? My father, definitely. He would have kicked my ass. We don't steal. 8th commandment, we just don't steal. So we're gonna have to make some hard decisions here because this goes into my book too, Facing Hard Truths. These are real. Do we want to live in a civil society where we can debate one another civilly? Do we want to have safe streets, safe homes, safe schools, safe workplaces, and get value for our tax dollars? Yes. So we have to have that bravado in the hard center, which hasn't existed, and I'm bringing that back.
Bravado in the hard center. Okay, that's an interesting positioning. So lastly on policy, homelessness. So it's not that we didn't have big hearts in California, we did. We gave a lot of money, but unfortunately homelessness has gone up instead of down. So you're the governor, what do you do in terms of where's the money? How do we allocate it properly? How do we actually solve this thing?
Good question, and I've been involved in the homeless crisis for 5 years with the LA Dream Center. Pastor Barnett does a good job, and I'm really involved. I'm there quite often every year. And I've taken care of 42 homeless families every year. And I've listened to the stories. And I've been in MacArthur Park on my hands and knees in the grass talking to those addicted. We've let the homeless down. We have Supreme Court ruling to allow us to clean our streets. Okay, we should have clean streets, open, notorious, clean, disease-free streets. Those are our streets. Those parks are our parks for our children. And the problem is the woke-ass Democrat leaders don't want to enforce the law. Mayor Bass doesn't want to enforce the law. Okay? And I have talked to those in MacArthur Park, a young man and a young woman, who said they want to get clean as they were lighting up a little fentanyl. Well, too damn close, by the way. And I said, you want to get clean? We could help you out tonight. We do, but we want to be together and want to cuddle as they get clean. But guess what? Some silly ass law says they can't be together. In what world? It goes to the point of in what world in a lot of things. We've got the Clean Air Act Romanet 2, okay? And we know now that with the Senate and the House, they're probably gonna vote against that EV mandates by 2035. And it's gonna go to the Supreme Court, right? Which is more conservative than it was in the past. Why would California fight that and spend $200 to $300 million fighting a losing lawsuit? For what? When I know we have people in the Central Valley doing farm worker work. They're farm workers, hard, toiling people, and they've got to go they're going to a food bank to eat. In what world do farm workers need to go to a food bank? And we're gonna spend $200 to $300 million of our money fighting a losing lawsuit when we know the Chevron decision was issued in Massachusetts 2007, West Virginia 2022. Loser, loser. Why would we do that and use our money? The reason is certain Democrats believe it's their money, not ours, but it's our money.
All right, last question then. What do you think of Gavin Newsom?
Gavin's a nice guy. I like him as a friend. We're good pals. We're good pals. Look, we lead differently. He's been a career politician. I'm an entrepreneur, a business leader, a creator of jobs. I fix problems of, those in politics and policy. And I can tell you this: when he had a French laundry problem, I tell you who he called for crisis management.
Interesting. And what'd you tell him?
How the hell did you get yourself into this mess? Who allowed you to do this, and how did this happen?
So
it's silly on all levels. If you can't walk the talk, don't be a leader. You gotta walk the talk.
So you think he shouldn't have gone there, or he shouldn't have had the laws in the first place preventing people from gathering as he
trap question, right? Haha, funny. No, he shouldn't have gone there to begin with. And whether or not he should have had the laws with regard to mask mandates. And look, it's kind of a 50-50 as we look back on this. Because the president of the United States, instead of leading at that time, Donald Trump, President Trump, created the Hunger Games in the United States. Instead of leading as the leader of the free world and managed the federal government properly, he abdicated and said, hey, states do what you want. I'm gonna create the Hunger Games and watch and just pick a winner, man. Go fight it out. That's not what the federal government should have been doing. So shame on Donald Trump for that. And have a cup of Clorox, whatever.
Yeah, he did actually say that, basically. The disinfectant line, obviously, that was famous. Yeah, I hear you. So it was a tough situation, but meeting with donors at the French Laundry with no masks on at the time, it was not the best move.
It was a mistake, and it was a mistake for his team allowing him to do it.
Yeah. All right, Stephen Cloobeck running for governor in California. Obviously a very interesting campaign. Running as an outsider businessman, going in there to fix it. His website's CaliforniaGetAClue.com. That's CLOO. As you see there, we'll put the link down below. His book is Facing Hard Truths: How Americans Get Real, Pull Together, and Turn Our Country Around. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.